Welcome back to my channel. Have you ever wondered what people mean when they talk about toilet infections? I'm sure you, just like me, would have had this thousands and times again. In today's video, we'll be debunking the myths of toilet infections. Is there really anything like toilet infections? What are the basis for those beliefs? Are they true? Stick around as we unravel this in today's video. If you are new to my channel, you there are most definitely welcome. I'm Dr. Ogo, and I hope you stick around and join our growing community by hitting that subscribe button. Also, remember to put on notification bell so you're notified whenever I post new videos. And to my returning subscribers, I thank you so much for supporting me, and I do not take this gesture for granted. So let's go straight into the meat of the matter. So usually whenever people talk about toilet infections, they are usually referring to either urinary tract infections or sexually transmitted infections. The common way that sexually transmitted infection manifests in women is by vaginal discharge. I have a video where I describe the various vaginal discharge, their colors and smell, and how you can recognize which by just looking at the color. You can look at the description above and watch that video. In today's video, I will focus more on urinary tract infections. But before we continue, let's look at the basic things that make up the urinary tract. So the urinary tract is made up of the kidneys, where the urine is filtered, the urethra, which is the conduit that brings this urine down to the bladder where the urine is stored, and then the urethra, which is the conduit by which it leaves the body. So the kidney is one of the very vital organs in the body, and the primary function of the kidney is to filter urine. And what that means is that every 40 minutes, about 1/4 of the total blood volume comes to the kidney and is filtered. And that filtration is basically to remove the toxins that are within the blood. So when those toxins are filtered out, they form urine. This urine passes from kidneys into the urethra, and from this urethra, it passes down to the bladder, which is like the storage system for this urine. When this bladder keeps getting filled by the urine that is accommodating, you start feeling the urge to urinate, and soon when it gets to a threshold that you can no longer bear, you will go to the toilet and pass out this urine through your urethra. And that's basically what the major function of the kidney is. So kidney infection refers to any infection anywhere along the tract, from the kidney down to the urethra where it leads from. So any infection from this tract is basically what is known as urinary tract infections. Now, ideally, this urinary tract is supposed to be a sterile area, and that means that there should not be any infectious agent. Now is when this infectious agent gets into the urinary tract, that is when urinary tract infections develop. So how does these urinary tract infections come about? They're usually caused by microorganisms. They could be viruses, bacteria, parasites, or even fungi. But not to bore you with those names, the most common ones are bacteria, and I wouldn't go into details talking about their various names. But the question that begs answer is, how does these microorganisms get into the urinary tract in the first place? So there are basically two basic mechanisms by which this occurs. The first one is what is known as ascending infections. So let's break down that word. Ascending is just an English word, and ascending means going from a lower region into a higher region. So in this type of situation, what basically happens is that this microorganism gets transported from the lower urinary tract into the upper urinary tract. So how does it get into this place in the first instance? So this can occur in various situations. First, if there's vigorous sexual activity, there's something called honeymoon cystitis, where there's frequent sexual intercourse seen in honeymooners. Those kind of vigorous frequent sexual intercourse will introduce microorganisms into the lower urinary tract, and this microorganism, because they have specialized structure, they can easily attach to the urinary tract, and then the flow of urine will not be able to wash them out, and they will gradually climb up into the urinary tract, extend up to the bladder, the urethra, or the kidneys, and cause serious infections. So this is one mechanism. Other things that can also cause this include poor toileting hygiene, and this is more prevalent in females. Ideally, after using the toilet, the ideal thing for a lady to do is to wipe from front towards the back. And the basic reason why you do this is because if you look at the openings within the vulva in a lady, what is most posterior at the back is the anal opening. So if you're wiping from the back towards the front, what you're basically doing is pushing those microorganisms from the anal opening, which is where feces is supposed to live, and passing those microorganisms into the vaginal opening and the urethral opening. So you're introducing those microorganisms and giving them an opportunity to ascend into the urinary tract. Other things that can also cause this include when a male is uncircumcised. Now that foreskin that is supposed to be removed is retained, and it will harbor microorganisms through which this can get into the urinary tract and ascend into the urinary tract, causing infections. The second mechanism to get infectious agent into the urinary tract is when there is a bloodstream infection. Remember, I just described how the basic function of the kidney is to filter blood. Now imagine if this blood is already infected. So when this blood gathers from different organs in the body to get filtered by the kidney, if this blood is already infected, this microorganism will leave the blood and seed into the kidney and cause serious infections. To know if you have urinary tract infections, watch out for those symptoms. Number 1, having frequent need to use the bathroom. Now, when the urinary tract is infected, especially the bladder, it will no longer be able to perform its function. And the primary function of the bladder is to store urine. So when the bladder is infected, it will cause irritation of the bladder. So whenever urine enters, it irritates the bladder and it will have an urgent need to pass out that urine because of the infectious process that is ongoing. So you see yourself going to use the bathroom frequently and passing very tiny amounts of urine. Those will also give you an urgent need to use the bathroom, such that whenever you feel pressed, you feel as if you'll pass it on your body if you don't use the bathroom as soon as possible. There will also be this burning pain while urinating. Just imagine the way you have a wound on the surface of your skin and something pours on that wound. And remember that urine is like made up of toxic products, right? Toxic product that your body wants to get rid of. Now that wound is not being exposed to this toxic product, so it gives you this burning pain while you're urinating. And because it's an infectious process ongoing, you would also experience fever. So if you see yourself experiencing any of those symptoms, avoid taking over-the-counter medications. Book an appointment and see a doctor. The ideal thing a doctor would do would be to collect a urine sample from you. This urine sample is subjected to a culture, and the microorganism causing this infection is isolated. This microorganism is also tested with certain antibiotics, and the antibiotics that is most susceptible to is what is prescribed, and you take this ideally between 7 to 14 days. At the end of the course of these antibiotics, another sample is collected to be sure that this has been properly cleared from your system. And the essence of going through all this process is to make sure that this infection is completely cleared and there's no residual infections. Having residual infection will cause a kind of chronic infections, and this chronic infection will cause chronic kidney disease, which on the long run will damage your kidney and might require you to start dialysis and end up getting transplant. And renal transplant is not something you would want to venture into. At the long run, protecting your God-given kidney is the best thing you could ever do for yourself. Now, the commonest myth of toilet infection is that it's gotten from the toilet seat. This is obviously lies from all levels. Now, this infectious agent causing both urinary tract infections and sexually transmitted infections cannot even survive for a matter of seconds when exposed to these inanimate surfaces like the toilet seat. These microorganisms are microorganisms that like moist, watery regions. So, and that is why they thrive in your environment within your body, like the vagina and the urinary tract. So, even if they are in your toilet seat, the possibility of them causing infections is very low. Theoretically, this might seem possible, but then it will require a cut on your skin or having contact with those toilet seats, but this is very, very, very unlikely. So those toilet infections are purely myths, and most time when people talk about toilet infections, they are simply just referring to either urinary tract infections or sexually transmitted infection. And due to the stigma associated with STIs, people will prefer to go with toilet infection just to cover that stigma. I hope this video was quite helpful. Please go ahead and watch other of my videos, and most importantly, please subscribe to my channel and share my videos. See you in my next video.